My name is Michael Burgess. I wrote an article in the winter edition of the New York State Archives magazine called A Christmas Tragedy. 50 years ago, in 1973 at Christmas time, I was a junior in college, and I remember hearing on the CBS Evening News that two older people in their 90s in Schenectady froze to death when their utility company, Niagara Mohawk, disconnected their gas and electric service for a bill that was about $200. The couple had the money; they just didn't understand, that their power was going to be cut off and that it could be cut off at that point. It was a tragedy that was mentioned across the country on the news, as I mentioned, and also it was one that kind of stunned me. I was very interested in going to work on issues in the community related to older people, and I moved to Albany in the late 1970s and actually was involved in some of the advocacy for the ultimate legislation that was passed. And my article is about that. It's about the process that happened beginning right after this tragedy over several years, the discussions in the Public Service Commission and later in the state legislature to pass a landmark bill called the Home Energy Fair Practices Act, which was more commonly known among advocates in the public as the Utility Bill of Rights. And this bill made sure that you could not shut off the power in the winter, especially with vulnerable populations like the elderly. And it set out procedures for offering payment plans and other consumer protections for the bill. In order to write this article, I originally looked back at the article in the New York Times that described the incident and the deaths of the bakers, and also about other things that were done at the legislature. I worked with the archive staff as well as the New York State Legislative Library staff, and they helped me find the legislation, the actual bill that eventually passed in 1981, and also some of the letters that were sent to Governor Hugh Carey urging him to sign the bill. All of that, mention of that, is included in my article, and the article really kind of lays out how this process happened, where a tragedy occurred and action was taken by consumer advocates and state government leaders to pass a landmark bill that became a template for the rest of the country.